Corruption in the United States varies widely across states, each with its own unique political culture, history, and economic influences. From the entrenched political machines of Illinois and New Jersey to the patronage systems in Louisiana and Mississippi, corruption can manifest in numerous forms, such as bribery, cronyism, and misuse of public office. Understanding the roots and patterns of corruption in these states is crucial to recognizing the challenges in governance and the urgent need for transparency and reform to uphold public trust and integrity. Number 10. Texas's corruption can be attributed to a combination of factors, including a political culture that fosters cronyism and patronage, rapid economic growth that creates opportunities for unethical practices, and relatively weak ethics laws and oversight mechanisms. The decentralized nature of local government in Texas often results in less accountability, particularly in smaller counties and municipalities. High-profile corruption cases involving state and local officials, such as those involving Rick Perry and Ken Paxton, highlight systemic issues. Additionally, the influence of powerful industries and lobbying efforts further contributes to a climate where corrupt practices can flourish. Number 9. California. Thanks to the editorial board for dedicating an entire opinion section, February 12, to the corruption in California. You highlighted California, but national-level corruption on both sides may be even worse. All of Washington, D.C. runs on corrupt lobbyists' money. The elephant in the room is the Biden family corruption. There's something seriously wrong with career politicians, from both parties, making millions of dollars at our expense. They no longer represent their constituents, just their own personal financial interests. The solution would be term limits. Our founding fathers never intended for us to have professional career politicians. It's time we change that to get rid of the corruption at all levels. Number 8. Florida. While Florida has had its share of mediocrities, it is little different from other large states with rootless electorates. Corruption has centered in some urban areas, notably Miami. In fact, the state has produced quite a lot of successful, talented, and honorable politicians over the decades. Governors Reuben Askew, Bob Graham, Leroy Collins, Lawton Chills, and Jeb Bush rank high on most lists. Nevertheless, the state suffers from a large population of transplants who don't follow, much less understand, local issues and personalities. Instead, they tend to carry their home state politics with them and vote the party. The situation is worsened by the centralization of mass media on national news rather than Tallahassee or close to home, and the weakening of local newspapers. The current governor, Ron DeSantis, is a good example of this tendency, preferring to follow and speak to Fox News rather than local media. He knows many older voters watch Fox, which ignores state issues unless they are sensationalist, i.e., the war on Disney and hurricanes. That approach succeeded in getting him elected twice statewide. His predecessor, now Senator Rick Scott, used and continues to use the same formula along with his personal wealth, despite a bland personality and record of political missteps, which Florida media report but Fox censors out. Number 7. Ohio's corruption issues are driven by a mix of political dynamics, economic pressures, and weak oversight. The state's competitive political environment and significant influence from special interest groups have led to unethical practices like bribery and pay-to-play schemes. High-profile scandals, such as the bribery case involving former House Speaker Larry Householder, highlight systemic problems. Ohio's decentralized local government structure also creates opportunities for corruption, with local officials often facing less oversight. Weak ethics laws and enforcement further exacerbate these issues, allowing corrupt practices to go unchecked, especially in economic redevelopment and public contract dealings. Number 6. Pennsylvania corruption in Pennsylvania is fueled by its complex political landscape, a history of political machines, and a culture of patronage, particularly in cities like Philadelphia. These networks often lead to exchanges of favors, jobs, or contracts for political support. The state has also seen numerous high-profile scandals involving public officials at both state and local levels, highlighting systemic issues of unethical practices and insufficient oversight in governance. Number 5. Mississippi corruption in Mississippi is driven by a combination of political, economic, and social factors. The state has a long history of patronage and cronyism, particularly in local and state government. Mississippi has frequently ranked among the highest in public corruption convictions per capita, reflecting systemic issues. Corruption often involves misuse of public funds, bribery, and embezzlement by public officials and private contractors, particularly in sectors like infrastructure, education, and healthcare. Weak regulatory oversight, limited transparency, and economic challenges contribute to a climate where corrupt practices can thrive, often going unchecked due to inadequate enforcement and accountability measures. Number 4. New York City is one of the most corrupt cities in America. In the mid to late 19th century, New York City was especially and notoriously known for Tammany Hall. It had to do with the politics of the day and how and who they wanted in positions of power. Sounds like MAGA, doesn't it? It was a job-making organization, too, where the infamous Boss Tweed desired and got kickbacks. Some Irish immigrants at that time became very powerful because of Tammany Hall. Then New York City had to deal with the mafia, which had some corrupt dealings et al. With politicians, law enforcement, and business owners. This first mafia begat other mafias, which all keep on going to this day. Number 3. New Jersey corruption in New Jersey is largely attributed to its entrenched political culture, characterized by machine politics, patronage, and a strong influence of special interests. The state has a history of corruption at various government levels, from local municipalities to state officials, often involving bribery, pay-to-play schemes, and misuse of public funds. New Jersey's dense population and diverse economy, with significant real estate development and public contracts, create numerous opportunities for unethical practices. High-profile cases, such as those involving mayors, state legislators, and law enforcement officers, highlight the persistent issues of corruption. Weak oversight and complex governance structures further exacerbate the problem, making it challenging to root out corruption effectively. Number 2. Illinois corruption in Illinois is deeply rooted in its political history, particularly in cities like Chicago, which is notorious for its machine politics, patronage, and cronyism. The state has a high rate of public corruption convictions, involving a wide range of officials from governors to local aldermen. Several governors, including Rod Blagojevich and George Ryan, were convicted of corruption-related charges, underscoring the systemic issues. Illinois' culture of pay-to-play, where political contributions are often seen as necessary for securing government contracts or favors, has contributed to widespread unethical practices. Additionally, the combination of a large bureaucracy, powerful special interests, and a complex regulatory environment provides fertile ground for corruption, making reform and oversight challenging. Number 1. Louisiana corruption in Louisiana is influenced by a long-standing culture of political patronage, cronyism, and lax oversight, which has been part of its history for decades. The state has frequently ranked among the highest in the U.S. for public corruption convictions per capita. Corruption in Louisiana often involves bribery, embezzlement, and misuse of public office by politicians, law enforcement, and public officials. High-profile cases, such as those involving former governors Edwin Edwards and Richard Lesh, illustrate the deep-seated issues of political misconduct and corruption. The state's economic reliance on industries like oil and gas, which are heavily regulated and involve substantial government contracts, further contributes to opportunities for corrupt practices. Louisiana's weak ethics laws and the influence of powerful political machines have made it difficult to implement effective reforms and ensure accountability. Corruption is a persistent challenge across various U.S. states, shaped by unique political cultures and histories. From Illinois' political machines to Louisiana's patronage systems, each state faces its own battles with bribery, cronyism, and misuse of public funds. Addressing these issues requires stronger accountability, transparency, and reform to restore public trust and build a fairer society.